All right, we're all set.
All right, welcome everybody. We're doing a webinar today for Knauss. It's the 2026 applications, but as we'll go through the time frame later, this will actually be for the Knauss Fellowship that will start February 1st. Yeah, 2026. So
Yes, I know that always gets me
sorry, I
too.
had to do that. So if you have any questions along the way, feel free to raise your hand or throw them in the chat. And we'll get to them as we go. There's been one or two changes from previous years for people who have applied before. So yeah, any questions, just let us know. And this is being recorded, so we'll send it out to all the participants. If you'd like a copy, just drop your email in the chat, please. Okay, so basically the Knauss Fellowship is a one-year opportunity in DC. It is a Marine and Coastal Policy Fellowship. I'm going to continue presuming that everybody has some knowledge of the fellowship itself, either from the national website or the notice of funding opportunity that was released a few days ago, or from talking to other people about the fellowship. It's split into two groups of host offices that you can be paired with, either the executive or legislative side. We can go into that in more detail if you're selected as a finalist at the state level, because we don't have to actually select which one you'd like to be a part of until after you've been named a national finalist. But if you do have any questions about that, let me know and I can go further into it. As far as the timeline, as I was kind of laughing at before, Knauss has a very long timeline. So the funding opportunity was just released. The applications will be due on February 19th, and those are due to us, Virginia Sea Grant. If any of you have applied in the past, we have used eSea Grant to collect applications. This year, they will be collected via our website, virginiaseagrant.org, which Hillary, could you drop that in the chat, please?
Absolutely.
If you have any questions about that process, let me know. We'll be updating everything over the next week or so you can go in and take a look at it. And it's mostly just uploading PDFs. It's very easy. But if you have any questions, let us know. Once we receive those applications, we will take some time, review them, put them through panel, and then we will let everybody know who our 6 national finalists are. At that point, we may conduct some interviews if we're having a hard time deciding between different applicants. But we are going to try to do all of the initial interviews before your applications are due, just so we have more time to talk to you guys and have follow-up questions. If follow-up questions come up, we can reach back out. It also gives us an opportunity to answer more specific questions on like your resume and your application, which we really can't answer once you've submitted the paperwork. So we will be putting out a Google Doc in the next probably day or so that will have sign-up slots for interviews. And I would appreciate if everybody would go on and make one of those interview appointments so that we can go through and meet with you guys, help you with your application packets, and answer any questions you may have while kind of getting to know you. And we'll discuss more why we have to get to know you in the director's letter a little bit later. Once those applications come in, back to the timeline, we will send our 6 state finalists up to nationals. I believe those have to go in by April. After National Sea Grant gets that, they do their panel review. The thing to note about their panel review is it's entirely based on paperwork. So whatever you submit to Virginia Sea Grant on February 19th is the only thing they will consider when grading your application and deciding who's going to go forward as a finalist. After they finish their review, they're saying they're going to notify people in June. They say that every year. I have never seen them notify people in June. More likely it will be July. But just as a heads up, June or July, you'll find out if you were a finalist. Once you're a finalist, you're guaranteed a position as long as the program continues. That's all guaranteed. You don't have to reapply for executive, or if you don't get executive, reapply for legislative. Once you're a national finalist, you're guaranteed a position. And then once you find out, you'll have placement week for executive placement week. That is going to be October. For legislative placement week, that's usually January. And then the fellowship itself will start February 1st, 2026. So just keep that in mind. As far as the award goes, everybody looks at those numbers on the front of the funding opportunity, and here is how they break down. So your base salary is going to be $73,100. Now, what that means in terms of paycheck or take-home salary, it's going to be somewhere around 67 after your FICA taxes come out. So just keep that in mind if you were selected as a finalist and start looking at apartments or things like that in DC, or you're planning out your life in DC. Of course, if you're selected as a finalist, we'll have more meetings and we'll discuss this further with you guys. But just as a heads up, that's what you would be looking at. The professional development funds, the $5,000 listed there, that is for travel, conferences, relocation expenses, things like that. The $15,000 for optional office-related travel, some fellows get that, some don't. It's not guaranteed, and it's up to your host office. So if your host office has a lot of conferences coming up that they want you to attend, they can put anywhere up to $15,000 extra into your award so that you can go to those different meetings and trainings and things. And then legislative, as I was saying, your placement week would be in January, and it's in person, versus executive placement week is going to be all virtual. So they give you an extra $2,500 for that placement week expense. It has to be reimbursed for placement week, though. It's not straight handed out. So just make sure you go through the program if you are a legislative fellow, so that we have all the documents we need to make sure you get paid back for that. Let's see. So just, these are the questions that National sends out. So I threw them in there, just quick answers. You will not be self-employed. You'll be a William & Mary employee. You will have access to the William & Mary employee benefits, including healthcare. However, I will put this out there now. Most fellows do not take the William & Mary healthcare because it has to be a network, and the network is down here in Gloucester and Williamsburg. So we would encourage you to look at some other options and just price everything out before you make a decision. But most fellows do wind up finding healthcare on their own. Estimated take-home pay, like I said, it's about $67,000 after your FICA comes out. And reimbursements, we use a system known as Chrome River. So for anyone who has, I know a couple different universities use that, but we will go through that if you are selected. Eligibility. As a general change this year, Knauss has always been open to both US citizens and non-citizens. There are some changes this year with non-citizens. You're still able to apply, but a lot of host offices are having issues where they're not allowed to take non-citizens in as fellows. So I will ask you, if you are a citizen of another country who wants to apply, please let us know during that interview process that we're going to have, so that we can just let you know what's entailed with the changes and which host offices kind of can and cannot take that. So all you have to do is be enrolled towards a degree in a graduate program at the time the NOFO was released, which means this semester. So fall semester of 2024, you have to be enrolled towards a degree in a graduate program. If you have any questions about being enrolled or where you should be applying, if anybody on here is not from Virginia, not attending school in Virginia, let us know. And if you shouldn't be in our program, we will direct you to the correct one. I didn't see any DC fellows sign in, but if you are DC this year, I believe you are coming to us for applications, but I will double check that. And you have to have an interest in ocean, coastal, and Great Lakes resources and the policy that affects them. I think that one's pretty obvious. As far as criteria affecting eligibility, we can send these slides out, so I'm not going to spend time reading through all of these. You do have to relocate to DC. That's the biggest one. Some of the host offices do allow remote work for partial, like a hybrid setup. but it depends on the host office. So just plan on being in DC or Silver Springs, Maryland, or somewhere close by where you can commute. I think we kind of touched on the foreign nationals topic, but if you are a foreign national, like I said, please let us know and we'll just go through it in more detail with you. You will need a federal background security check, up to top secret clearance, depending which office you're working for. So keep that in mind. And if you are accepted as a national finalist, you may not reapply, but if you are selected as either not selected by Virginia or selected by Virginia and not selected by nationals, you may apply again as long as you're still enrolled in school. That being said, Virginia is the most competitive state that I know of for Knauss fellowships. It's often said that it's harder to get selected at the state level than the federal level in Virginia. Some state programs have a hard time having, collecting their 6 applicants every year. That would be their state finalists. Most years we have between 20 and 35 applicants at the state level. And I can select 6 to put forward to the finalists as state finalists. So just keep that in mind. It is competitive here in Virginia. So yeah. As far as foreign nationals, like I said, we can discuss that in more detail if that applies to you. Same thing for dual citizens. That one's a little less restrictive, but there are some offices that cannot accept dual citizenship. Application materials. What you have to submit to us is your CV, your personal education and career development response, your relevant coursework and future plans, and your letters of recommendation. You also have to submit your transcripts, even though they're not going to be submitted to nationals. We have to take your transcripts in and we have to certify that we've read them and that you're actually a student, you're actually enrolled and in good standing. So please have those available as well. That's all undergrad and graduate transcripts that might apply to you. As far as the director's letter, that's that reason we want to interview you. We have to write a letter of recommendation for each student we send to nationals. And for some applicants, we've known you for a while, and that's a little easier because you've been involved in another program that we've had. And for some, we've never met you before. So just do us a favor and sign up for one of those interview slots so we can get to know you and kind of fill in any gaps that might exist in your application in the director's letter, which will give you a better chance at getting selected. The director's letter is graded. So it's just the more information you give us, the better. All right, so this is the review criteria as far as what counts for what, as far as how you want to spend your time preparing. One thing I like to point out here, your recommendation letters are graded. So go through the NOFO and figure out what they want the recommendation letters to discuss and make sure you're giving that to your letter writers. Give them enough time to write a decent letter and give them the information they need to cover all the topics that are expected in the application. The personal education and career development response, that's going to be the main bulk of your kind of essay portion. If you have any questions as you're writing those, let us know. Your transcripts, like I said, those are going to have to go to us. If there's anybody from out of state here, so any DC people, let us know and we'll get you the letter that you need from Maddie. Demographics information, that's a new thing Sea Grant is doing. It is up to you if you participate. It is not taken in with your application, but there is a Google form that I will send out to everybody who applies that you can click on and fill out if you want to participate in that. Review process, we went through the timeline. I'm not going to go through it again. Application tips. We will connect you with an alumni if you wish to be connected with an alumni. Virginia has the most Knauss alumni of any state, so we have a great selection of people that you can work with. Go ahead and give those alumni as much time as possible when you're preparing your application because they're busy. And they're willing to take time out of their schedule to review your application and give you tips and edits, but make sure they have the time to do so. Reread. Sometimes we start writing and we think it's really, really good. Then we go back and it doesn't quite answer any of the questions we set out to answer. It might be a really good, it might read really well, but it may not answer the questions we set out to answer. So just make sure you go back and reread. I should not be the first person, or Hillary should not be the first person to read your application after you wrote it. Make sure you've already reread it, share it with somebody else, get some feedback. Starting early in the letters of recommendation, we talked about that, give everybody enough time. Staying true to yourself, that was a suggestion from Nationals, and I would echo it, but make sure you let yourself show in the application. There's a lot of people who apply for this fellowship. Make yourself stand out in a way that is uniquely you. Tell us a story in your application materials. Everybody applying is done wonderful things in grad school and has fantastic resume builders and is probably, you know, might be published or might be have presented in 8 or 9 different places. You know, everybody's got their thing. Make sure you tell us your story as well. In most cases, that's going to be more important and it's going to set you apart. And proofread, mostly because I don't like when I get applications with typos in them. Yeah, just make sure you're proofreading it. It's never good to put in a CV that has a word misspelled that makes it awkward to read. And it just makes it look like you weren't putting the effort in that maybe they're looking for. If you have any questions, reach out to Hillary or myself at any time. I don't know why Hillary's email isn't up there. She's going to put it in the chat.
I already did.
Okay, great.
I just did. I was gonna say, I can put your email in there too if you want. I added in the chat, email me if you, or put it in the chat if you would like to talk with a mentor. We are lucky enough to have at least one of our mentors join us for this meeting. I don't know if Frank has any advice for anyone or not, but he's been a mentor for years and he does a fabulous job with our mentees and students. Like Lisa said, my email is in the chat. I can put her email in there as well. Just let me know if you'd like to hook up with talk to a mentor.
All right. So, before we open it up for questions, Hillary, was there anything I didn't touch on or that you think I should go back to? I just want to make sure we went through everything.
I think that covered everything. The part about really being true to yourself when you're writing this information. A lot of times, like Lisa said, students think, oh, I don't have anything for this. I haven't done anything since middle school when it comes to this. No, let's talk about it, because sometimes the more you talk about it with somebody, we can ask you questions and then we figure out that there's a whole other story that you could tell that relates a lot better. And then Frank, did you want to add anything as a mentor? Any advice for people?
Really, it would just be to echo what you've already shared. Having reviewed a lot of these applications over the years, I think the distinguishing between them is hard. And so it could be subtle things that ultimately have a huge impact on whether you get through. And so I think being true to yourself and telling stories and talking about your role in the story in particular is very important. You sort of want to walk on water at the same time as you're being humble. And that's a tricky thing to thread, right? A tricky needle to thread. So, which is why I think it's useful to reach out to folks who have some experience in this and get some feedback while you're working through the process. So kudos to you guys in Virginia for setting this kind of a process up.
Thank you, Frank, for all your help. It's awesome.
Yeah, we just connect people. It's,
yeah.
a lot of great alumni who are happy to help you guys as you get everything ready. That being said, as far as alumni and the cohort goes, Knauss is a great experience if you want to work in either the federal government in DC in general or at the state government level. And at this point, I'm going to put a shameless plug in for our state version of the fellowship, Commonwealth. And I put that here because as I said, Virginia is very competitive for Knauss. And not everybody who applies will be pushed forward to the national level. And out of those people, not everybody who's pushed forward to the national level will be selected as a finalist. So if you are interested in getting involved in the state level of policy and management, we do have the Commonwealth Fellowship, collecting host office programs right now. So those will be going out probably in January, February, and then the applications will be due in March. If you want more information about that, please let us know. We're happy to talk about it. You'd be stationed with a host office like Virginia DCR, DEQ, VMRC, or any of the CZM offices really are optional, depending on the year. So that's fun as well. Does
I
anybody
added
have any?
Oh, I added that link in the chat too for everyone.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any questions? Let me stop sharing this. You can just unmute and ask a question, or you can throw it in the chat.
Do you want me to stop the recording for the questions or keep it going?
You can leave it on now.
Okay. Both
Who would you
opportunities are
recommend?
great.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Michaela.
Who would you recommend for like the letters of recommendation? I know that one has to come from a faculty member, but like from experience, do you think that one should be someone other than a faculty member to get more diversity in?
Yes, so I would suggest picking a diverse perspective of you for the second letter. Now, if that's another person in academia, that doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad idea, as long as they know you through something different. What I would try to avoid is people like, this is my advisor, and this is the faculty member that works in the same lab as my advisor, because they know you through the same projects. You know, they're going to have the same stories, the same experiences. If you've done, you know, you have your advisor, but then maybe you've done an internship or a fellowship and you have the person who ran that, who knows you in a slightly different context, that would probably be a good option. Or somebody you've worked for professionally or in the private sector or anything like that, just someone who's going to have different stories. So when both people are asked, give me an example of a time that Michaela was a leader or expressed leadership skills, that they don't spit out the same answer. You don't want them to have the same story about that one time in lab that, you know, you did something fabulous. You want two different stories.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Other questions?
Feel free to add a question in the chat too.
And we're at VIMS, and VIMS is going to be closed for Virginia Sea Grant is going to be closed for the holiday for the week of Christmas and week after through New Year's Day. But Hillary and I will both have our emails. So if you have a question as you're working on your materials, please just shoot it over and we'll get to it as soon as we can. Otherwise, I'm not seeing any other questions.
Really quickly, hi, my name is Zane. And I apologize that I came in a little bit late, so maybe I missed this, but
That's okay.
the application deadline is on the website right now. From what I'm looking at, it's still listed as February 15, 2024. When will that be updated to reflect like the current cycle and all the information be reflected?
All right, so we just got the NOFO, let's say on Monday. And unfortunately, our comms director has been out sick since last Friday. So he will be coming back and updating everything. For the meantime, everything is available in the notice of funding opportunity. If you have not received that document, it's available on NOAA's website. If you can't find it for some reason, shoot me an email and I will forward it. But I'm hoping that everything will be updated on the website by, I'm going to say Monday, just because in case he's not in tomorrow. So I am hoping that it's all updated by Monday, but it should be soon regardless.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much. Yeah, I've been watching that website like a hawk. So like I think at this point, like I literally just type in like HTTPS and that's the website that pops up.
You're not the
So
only one.
So there are, just as a side note, if you are checking our website for updates, as far as when Knauss is coming out or anything like that, if you're not on our listserv, you can sign up for that when you go to the website, and that will at least let you know when different fellowships start or when applications are due. Like I said, we are going to try to have the website updated by the beginning of next week. Normally Knauss comes out a little earlier than this. This is a little late. So we weren't quite sure when it was going to come out either. It looks like we scheduled this webinar very conveniently for 2 days after it came out, but we had scheduled this a long time ago, thinking that it would have been out for a while and people would have had like more of a chance to read it and develop questions, but it came out kind of late.
and are the essay questions the same from last year to this year? Or like are they vastly different?
I wouldn't say vastly,
Okay.
but they always change a little bit. So it hasn't, I'd have to go back and look at last year's to see if there's any small changes, but I wouldn't think they were that different. All right. So not seeing any other questions, if you want to kill the recording, Hillary, oh wait, hold on. Yes, I will share the link to the NOFO in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks, AJ.